I want to raise some questions this morning as a result of a recent Freedom of Information request from the Dublin Commuter Coalition around the Luas Finglas line. And I suppose I should start by saying that no disrespect to yourselves, but between TII and NTA and Dublin Bus and Buster, even I find it hard sometimes to keep a track of what the plans are, and it's incredibly useful when members of the public and groups like the Commuter Coalition engage in the way they have on the detail of these plans. My understanding is that TII had originally planned a walking and cycling infrastructure route along much of the new Luas line, the new Finglas route, but that the NTA have asked that much of the Luas side walking and cycling infrastructure be removed from the plans. Is that a fair assessment or a fair summary of what has happened?
I think the fair assessment would be that a cycling strategy for the Greater Dublin area has been developed by the NTA. The coordination of the provision of cycle infrastructure within our project, the Luas extension to Finglas, with that cycling strategy is something that we will do and have done. And that has resulted in a change in the amount of cycle and walking provision in the Luas Finglas project. So it reflects the completion of the NTA's cycle and walking strategy for the Greater Dublin area, and we will comply with that.
So sorry, for clarity, what you're saying is it was there, but there was a decision to set it aside and rely on the Greater Dublin area cycle network strategy.
Well, we will develop all our projects in compliance with the strategies and policies in place
Fair enough.
For the area.
The Greater Dublin Area Cycle Network Plan is from 2013. What percentage of that is built at the moment?
I have no idea.
Oh, okay. That would possibly be relevant to the conversation. And can I ask then, in the absence of that NTA direction, would TII have been in favour of building this infrastructure as part of the Luas Finglas project? We
proposed that because we thought that was a good design to propose.
Makes sense.
Well, we proposed a project, and we put in the project what we believe to be the appropriate provision. But it's always it always has to be subject to conformity with strategies and policies in place for that part of the country. So. No,
thank you for that. And in fairness, the chair is pulling me up on getting into policy. And I do have the maps here, Chair. And just to say that it's not necessarily about policy. This is a very direct route. And the 2013 plan is, I would describe it as a network or a warren of routes. And speaking, since we were discussing a lot about, female use of public transport and of active travel, a direct, well-lit route on a public transport avenue is completely different from a warren of back streets and cycle lanes. And I have to say, I'd be really interested to know if any of the organisations involved costed the impact of building all the infrastructure in one go versus having it built in pieces by various organisations. Has anyone done that work? There's been a decision now that we're taking it. Well, we're taking it out of that very direct route. And I'm wondering, has there been a cost-benefit analysis of doing it in one go along a direct route, or doing this network, which, by the way, a lot of this is not built? Is there a cost-benefit analysis of that choice?
I should probably defer to the Department of Transport on this, because we can't go assessing other agencies' projects, so we don't.
Well, you would think and I mean, we talk about this with roads all the time, where there are two plans on the same route and on the same road, that there would be a significant amount of communication between both organisations. But maybe the department could speak on that.
Suggest maybe it'd be helpful if the department maybe was to give an outline of much of that's in place at the moment.
Yeah, that would be useful. Yeah. Okay, maybe if the department could outline how much of that Greater Dublin Cycle Area Network from 2013 has been built in that particular area, which is the Finglas Luas line kind of district. I don't know who in the department would be able to answer that.
I don't have the details to hand, Deputy. but I can liaise with the National Transport Authority, who have responsibility for the implementation of the development and implementation of the national cycle strategy, or the
But
cycling strategy
where
for the
those kind of
GDA.
decisions are being made, is the department facilitating communication between these two public bodies so that we're not coming out worse, both in terms of taxpayer expenditure on active travel and the Luas, and in terms of the experience and access to active travel?
Yes, absolutely. We coordinate frequently.
So sorry, that's great. So we do coordinate. So does that mean, has there been a cost-benefit analysis of removing cycling and walking from the Luas Finglas project?
No.
Okay.
Not that I'm aware of, but
that would seem to be a requirement before we make that decision, would it?
well, the overall strategy is what will determine, in terms of the individual projects that fall out of that now. The review of the GDA strategy, as you know, is underway, and that will determine what future projects will proceed within the overall strategy. That will be the framework for the next 6 years when it is decided.
And when will that be?
It's at public consultation stage, as I understand it, or the public consultation has just concluded on it, and it will be the outcome of public consultation now will be considered by the National Transport Authority, and it will be sent then to the Minister for approval in due course, I would expect in the next couple of months.
Okay, so if the Luas side walking and cycling elements are being removed from the TII plan, then when can we actually see proper cycling infrastructure that provides that kind of network, as I've described it, that warren of cycling infrastructure? When will we see that on the ground?
On the ground,
Yeah.
It will depend on funding, of course. We have provided allocations for active travel infrastructure for 2022 to all of the local authorities. The Minister announced those before Christmas. And as you're aware, there's a very significant increase in funding available for the active travel infrastructure nationally, over 100 million for the GDA, and I think 289
I'm aware of the
million
extra funding.
nationally.
I'm very aware of it. So if we just take the cost-benefit aspect out of the conversation and I suppose the money side of it, is the department, and maybe TII can row in on this as well, when these decisions are made, is there a review on the suitability of the options and the provision of walking and cycling along, in this case, the Luas route, in comparison to the GDA cycle network when it comes to, things like, gender security or gender violence, for example?
Well, we
don't do that work, do we?
Pardon?
Do we do that work? We don't.
We do a gender lens assessment of our projects.
Yeah, well, okay, that's an important point of the projects that are going ahead.
Of the projects that we're responsible for and the sponsoring agency for, yes.
So when there are two organisations involved and the department involved and decisions are being made for what project goes ahead and what doesn't, there is no set of tests around, equality testing or diversity testing or gender testing.
There is a very clear hierarchy of decision-making around it. TII is a sponsoring agency, so we're at the bottom of it. We bring forward our project and we put within it what we believe to be the features required to meet the objectives of the scheme. The next layer up in the governance is the NTA, who will coordinate it across all of the public transport and active travel projects within the Greater Dublin area. And then the next layer up will be the department. So I know this is kind of possibly beyond the scope, and maybe the department can tell me. So is there a scoring document somewhere whereby the NTA took your plan and did that work, and can we access it and can we see it? I can't answer.
Could the department answer that for me?
There is a draft document out for consultation from the National Transport Authority, as I understand it at the moment, a draft cycle strategy for the GDA. No, I'm
not asking about the GDA. I'm asking about the decision to remove walking and cycling from the Luas Finglas project as opposed to doing the GDA. Because one is much better than the other, and I want to understand why we're not getting the good version.
Well, we'll have to consult with the NTA to understand the decision-making
So, sorry,
process.
just to be clear, I just want to get this
They
one
have
answer from the
overarching
department.
responsibility
Is
for
there a
delivering
document?
strategy.
Sorry, I don't mean to talk over you. Is there a document that has a score that is not based about cost, but is based around safety and women's access and safety for children? Is that in existence in the NTA?
I don't know the answer to that, Deputy. I'll have to ask the NTA and come back to you.
Yeah, because it has to be spoken, comes back with that to the deputy.